The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Goodness gracious, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see how excited Caleb Calhoun is. He's about to pop through his screen. Look at him leaned up. He's on the edge of his seat. He's ready to go. It's like every day's the Super Bowl, Caleb. Every day is the Super Bowl, and I have the ultimate clutch gene. So he's Captain Clutch. He's Caleb Brady. Welcome to the program.
Caleb Brady. Love that.
Yeah, we get off and rolling. Plenty of things to talk about. Josh Ward joins us on Thursday. We love to visit with him. My, oh my, those Lady Vols. We'll discuss that with Josh. Also, Josh, his appearance brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas right there in Athens. I'll tell you more about them, welcoming them on board. Certainly looking forward to working with them. The best chemicals, the best spas, the best prices right there in Athens. So I'll tell you more about them here momentarily. But also, we've got big-time recruiting news coming up on the program. And we started off with, we're going to have an announcement with Jordan Seaton, who is going to announce at 9 o'clock and is one of the highest-rated uncommitted prospects still on everybody's board. So what are you thinking about Jordan Seaton? What can you tell us about him? And then we've got news on Justin Jolly. Then we'll get to today's tough question that deals with the Vols right now. Seaton, an offensive tackle. I talked to people at Oregon who seem to think they've got him. I don't. I've talked to people that have a Tennessee buzz. This is a difficult one to predict. I would have said Ohio State 48 hours ago. I might say Tennessee now. That will be about noon, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on it because a lot of you watching, it'll be dated by the time you get to it. And then Justin Jolly, the tight end from Connecticut, has said he will not visit. I'm going to tell you why a little bit later in the program. So go ahead and click that like and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate that. A lot to get to on the program. Tennessee recruiting in general, as again, a lot of you will be viewing this when some of these decisions have been made. We're going to talk to Josh about this. I think it's going quite well. Is it perfect yet? No. And I don't know that another win, a 9-3 season instead of 8-4 would have made much of a difference. But I also think that you need to keep in mind that unlike some other coaches that Tennessee has had recently that we're going to dissect, Josh Heupel coaches up his players. I mean, how many players do you look at? Jalen Hyatt's the prime example that have come in. I bet you could name 5 right now, Caleb. You're so smart. I bet you could name 5 players that got massively better from the time they stepped on foot on campus and left for the NFL or whatever endeavor they decided to pursue.
Yeah, I could easily. I mean, obviously, Hendon Hooker, Jalen Hyatt. I would say Princeton Fant was coached up very well. Cedric Tillman was coached up very well. I mean, these were all incredible players. Darnell Wright, we saw, but with, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say coach up. We saw the potential with Darnell Wright. That was a guy who I think just flipped a switch. And I kind of think maybe Jalen Hyatt was the same way. I don't know if that was Heupel coaching as much as that was what you've talked about with Reggie White his senior year, where they both were like, oh, I need to go ahead and start playing because otherwise my NFL draft stock is going to suffer.
Development, though, let me expand, is part of, I think, culture, too. I think if you show up to practice and you're a little bit afraid of your bipolar coach because his name's Butch and he has a terrible haircut, I think it makes it tougher to go to practice day in and day out and be very good. So I think culture's part of that and help Hyatt and Wright. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, culture is definitely part of it. I would agree with that. But you're right. Butch was bipolar. Jeremy Pruitt was fiery, though. I wouldn't say, but he was fiery in the way that I feel like Nick Saban might be fiery. And so I don't know if the players were afraid of him. I think Jeremy Pruitt was just bad schematically on offense, if we're being honest. So I think that's all that was. Jim Chaney, I don't think Jim Chaney's a bad offensive coordinator, but I think his system only works if you have a lot of talent. Tennessee didn't have a lot of talent on offense.
Agreed. So on the message board, somebody's trying to get us to watch soccer. We're not going to do that. And Justin Jolly mentioned not visiting Tennessee, and I'm going to tell you why a little bit later in the program. And then Butch was a Butch. I don't know how you can say that. He's an interesting fella, a little bit bipolar. But I want to get to something a little more pertinent because it kind of slipped up on, I think, a lot of people. Tennessee's bowl practice starts Friday. That leads us to today's tough question.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Today's tough question is currently on our YouTube page as a poll. So, a little narrative here. Visiting with Jacob Warren yesterday, and I'm asking, what's with Joe Milton's decision? Because if I were him, I would leave. And I wrote that column, and people just read the headline and said, "Oh, you're telling Joe to get out the door." No, I wasn't saying that at all. What I was saying that it doesn't benefit Joe Milton to participate in the Citrus Bowl against one of the better defenses in the nation. Even if he goes out there, let's say he has a fine game, 14-24 for 200 yards would be a fine game against this defense. What does that really say about Joe Milton? Not much. It's just that he's a good quarterback and he had a good day. Maybe he needs more preparation, and that's why he played well against Clemson. But there's a chance he could go out and be 8 of 20 for 120 yards against this defense, Caleb, and that hurts him. So now he's viewed as a guy with an awful lot of upside that lacks some, and I'm going to use this word in a very different way, that lacks some talent when it comes to passing the football. I'm not saying running. I'm not saying jumping. I'm not saying he can throw the ball 90 yards, but lacks some passing ability, passing talent that coaches can work on. What changes if he plays in the Citrus Bowl? So today's tough question brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. I'm not going to ask you if he should play because he shouldn't. I'll go ahead and tell you that. I'm going to ask you about Nico and what if Joe Milton decided not to play, what that would mean for Tennessee's program playing in the Citrus Bowl. It's brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Best prices, best service in the biz. It's Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. You absolutely cannot beat him in Knoxville for over 40 years of experience in that office. All right, so the question is, and you can vote on YouTube, but we want to get your thoughts as well as we move along here. What would be the Vols' response to Nico starting the Citrus Bowl? Okay, now these are the players. And I'm visiting with Jacob Warren yesterday, and he said, yeah, sure, I'd like to play with the kid. So I used that as one of the choices. Fired up to play with the kid. Oh, no, Joe. In other words, players wouldn't like that. Or let's ride. I mean, whoever's going to play is going to play. So those are your three choices. I want to hear it on the message board. I want to hear from you. I want to hear you vote right now on the poll. Today's tough question brought to you by Andy Mason Real Estate, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. What would be the Vols' response to Nico starting the Citrus Bowl, which would mean Joe Milton skipping the final game of eligibility he has as a college player? And that's a lot considering he began in about 1948. So given those three choices, Caleb, what would you go with?
I would say it would be let's ride. And the reason but for a specific reason. Have you followed this team the last 3 years, anybody? Tennessee's approach to everything has been let's ride. I don't feel like their emotions change week to week depending on the game they play. Have you noticed that, Dave? It just doesn't seem like they seem to be one that has the same approach for every game, don't they?
Yes. If you want to take South Carolina, I would take that out of the equation.
Yeah, there are a couple of exceptions. Like this year, they were all in on making sure they blew out South Carolina, and you had the inside. You knew why Vegas set that line so high. I didn't understand it at the time, and you were like, the line should be higher. I should have. Dave, you're not even a good friend. You should have told me to take money on the alternate spread in that game
I don't
secretly.
want to be wrong and cost you money.
You are not a good friend, Dave. And so I could have made a lot of money off that one. But so you're right. Outside of that, it's not like, look, whatever. This was a problem with the Fulmer era. And it's funny, we're going to talk about Heupel versus predecessors. Fulmer could not keep his team emotionally consistent week by week, could he? They would get really up to play Georgia. They'd be really tight for Florida. But then
it's funny, he mentioned that in terms like magic dust. You remember his term? You can't sprinkle magic dust on the team every time to get them to play their best. Interesting that you would say that. Yes, they were a little up and down. Great point.
Yes. And Josh Heupel I think Josh Heupel's dead serious when he said it's the biggest game because it's the next game. He approaches every game like it's the biggest because it's the next. Alabama, MTSU, Austin Peay, it's the biggest because it's the next. And I think Tennessee has really gotten that approach down. Now, I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know if you want your players to turn it up a notch when they play more elite teams or under the lights, but I think because of that, this Tennessee program has a very business-like approach to every game they play. And I think that's because of that, they'll be let's ride, no matter who starts.
I love you, but I completely disagree. I think it is hands down fired up to play with the kid. I think it would not only inspire Tennessee's players who could come up flat in a Citrus Bowl game, just a weird feeling from covering bowl games, no insight, but I just got a weird feeling this could be a flat showing. We'll see. I think it would be fired up to play with the kid. Vote on YouTube. 31% now fired up to play with the kid. Let's ride, which is just go with whoever's starting. Gaston, jump in there, would be 62%. And oh no Joe just gets 8%. So
they agree with me. The audience agrees with me. They're like, Caleb is so smart. They're like, Caleb is so much smarter than Dave.
They do. But you just admitted I could have made you a lot of money with some information. I probably could have a couple of other times as well.
That is true.
Here's the other thing too. I just think he's better. I mean, I'm to the point where with the 20 pounds, with the practice, I think he gives Tennessee a better chance to beat Iowa and play really well. I think they've got a great chance to beat Iowa anyway, and probably will in ugly fashion with Joe Milton if he's a starter. I think they have a better chance to have a great offensive showing with Nico. I mean, as of today, right now, I think Nico makes them a better football team with another month to prepare. The thing that stuns me is that this is all just kind of flown under the radar. I mean, are we expecting a decision from Joe Milton, or is he just going to show up to practice on Friday? Is that not a little odd to you?
Yeah, this is that's what's so weird about this is you wonder like when do players have to announce that they're going to play in the bowl game? You know what I mean? And like that's what's so weird about this era. Last year, players were opting out at the most random times, and bowl practice was well underway. Do you remember this, Dave? Jeremy Banks announced he was going to opt out Christmas Eve, and
it's a good news dump day.
Yeah, right. Well, he did that because he did that because he didn't want to be in the news. He wanted to quietly exit Tennessee, knowing.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I mean the only better news dump day than a Friday afternoon is Christmas Eve.
It's Christmas Eve. Yes, exactly. I mean, Santa Claus was already in the air. Okay, he was already dropping presents, and Jeremy Banks is like, guys, I'm not going to play in the bowl game. He wanted the quietest exit from Tennessee possible, and honestly, it really kind of shows his intangibles and, quite honestly, level of intelligence to not think we were still going to be able to get a hold of that and cover it. He doesn't know how online Vol media works. So, but again, bowl practices were well underway at that point. Was he practicing with the team and nobody knew? Or, these are the questions that we asked. Now, Josh Heupel doesn't open the practices up, right? So you can't really see.
There's not going to be any open portions on Friday. That makes me think, and nor Saturday or over the weekend. That makes me think that Joe Milton is not going to participate in the bowl game. Hunch. Don't call me out on it, guys, if he ends up playing. But, I mean, you have no open portions. Doesn't make much sense to me. I think that Tennessee would be inspired and play better with Nico than with Joe. And I mean, no offense to Joe. And I know some of his family members watch our videos, and I think your son's done a great job. But I think it's time for him probably to move on. Portions of the program brought to you by our friends at Harrow Group Security Solutions, leadership, experience, specialization, addressing problems through unique mission-specific mitigation techniques, also making your children safer one school at a time. HarrowGRP.com. HarrowGRP.com. Some recruiting, a couple of notes right off the top that might be dated. So Caleb's going to do a good job of editing this out. Justin Jolly is not going to visit. Why? I have a theory that I want to jump into. We mentioned Seton, his announcement's coming. Maybe you know where he's going by the time you watch this video. So we're going to focus on other cats. But let's focus on Justin Jolly, the tight end out of Connecticut that will not visit. He could have rode down with my son who's coming from UMass, but he's not going to do that. By the way, happy birthday, Trammell, who doesn't watch the program. But Justin Jolly will not visit. I have a theory, and I've covered recruiting for more years than I care to admit. A name to keep an eye on, and I've not heard anyone bring it up. How about Bauer Sharp, a sophomore tight end from Southern Louisiana? He has received a scholarship offer from Alec Ablin, according to GoVols 24/7, our friend Ryan Callahan, and he will visit the weekend of December the 15th. So since December the 4th, Josh Heupel has a better feel for how many scholarships he has to give, because he sits down with anywhere from potential returning seniors to guys that he wants to go ahead and cruise on out of the program. And he has an idea. So even though we're just a couple of days into this transfer portal window, I think numbers are getting tight. I think that you just tell Jolly, hey, we're good. Also, I think tight end is going to be a position of strength with Ethan Davis. They have to replace Jacob Warren, and I understand that, but I think the tight end position with Ethan Davis will be solid. They need another McAllen Castles, like he came in this year, to step in. And that might very well be the Bauer kid. But that just makes way too much sense to me, Caleb.
Yes, and also there's two types of tight ends in Josh Heupel's system. There's the physical, overwhelming presence, and then the guy that's almost a receiver, almost like a Rob Gronkowski receiver type. So Jacob Warren was the physical, overwhelming presence, right?
By the way, you and I are the only ones that call him Jacob. He told me the other day, he said, everybody calls me Jay or Jake. So it's you and me. And maybe his parents.
Okay. Well, I call my little brother Jake, so I get his name's Jacob, and he likes to be called Jake. But so Jacob Warren is the physical blocking tight end. And McAllen Castles, I think, was more the receiving tight end. Justin Jolly is all but a receiver. He's 6'3", 215. Okay, so he's basically a slow receiver. If it really boils down to it. And with Ethan Davis, why do you need Justin Jolly? Because Ethan Davis, I think, has like 20 pounds on him and is probably faster. So
yeah, it's Ethan Davis, I've been told, is one of the freakiest athletes on the roster. And once they mold him a little bit, he's going to be, I think, really, really good. And I haven't heard one negative thing about him. Recruiting coverage today brought to you by our friends at the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Support our sponsors. That's why we're here. Also, Tennessee has offered MTSU defensive tackle Marley Cook. It was reported on Monday that Cook planned to enter the transfer portal and has lined up visits at Miami and Ohio State. So here's a guy you would think would be natural just to come to Tennessee. But if he's getting interest from Miami and Ohio State, this could be a bidding war. 6'2", 298 pounds. I'm not hearing anything yet on him, but I do think this feels a little bit, and I'm not knocking him. I think it feels a little like Dante Thornton in that it's a bidding war. And then Tennessee has to decide if they want to spend that type of cash.
Yeah, they do. And you don't know what you're going to get with Marley Cook coming from the lower level. I think, look, the production was there. And I think but the hard part with defensive tackles, Dave, at smaller levels is that's where the talent gap reduces significantly, is in the trenches. So if you're semi-good Division I. If you're a Power 5 caliber defensive tackle, even as a backup, you can blow up every play at Group of 5 level college football, right? Because the play is just so significantly worse in the trenches.
No, that's true. I would want to see his quicks. He had 19 tackles for a loss, 10.5 sacks, but you're right. You don't know how the level of competition affected that. But I think that, if I had to predict, he ends up at Tennessee because he's nearby, but I don't have a great fit for that. Good news for 2 UT commits that were invited to the Army All-American game, Boo Carter and Bennett Warren, and still resonating the Boo Carter conversation we had with Stephen Hargis of the Chattanooga Times Free Press. Boy, if you haven't seen that video, go back and watch it, but finish this one first. And that is that Boo Carter is absolutely not what you would have thought of a prospect 10 years ago. And that's a guy who visits other schools and switches high schools during his time before college. You worry about. This is a guy that, according to Stephen Hargis, has nothing to worry about. And then what are your thoughts on Bennett Warren, a Tennessee commitment, before I throw some other recruiting news at you?
Bennett Warren committing to play in the Army Bowl is actually a good sign for Tennessee. That is somebody that Tennessee really needs in their class. We talk about Tennessee in the trenches a lot, and he is a very elite tackle prospect. Dave, he's only a 4-star, but we're talking Darnell Wright potential. I mean, at 6'7", 330. And so, this is now, again, he comes out of Texas. You and I talked about it yesterday. Texas recruits, for some reason, always underachieve at the college level. And I saw a comment yesterday. The working theory on this, Dave, is because the high school coaching in Texas is so good, they're rated based on potential, but what's not realized is they've already reached their potential a lot of times in high school coming out of Texas. And so the upside is not usually what you think it's going to be, which I haven't thought about that, but that makes a lot of sense. Now, Boo Carter, it's funny. The only one that's official is Bennett Warren in the Army All-American Bowl. We're saying Boo Carter because Boo Carter tweeted that he received an invite, but there's actually no proof that he received an invite from the other end. If you go to the 247 Sports 2024 Army Bowl participants, Boo Carter's name's still not on there. But
maybe he needs NIL money. Or he wants some Army gear. That is very odd to me. Why? Unless they want to announce it. Listen, I've been a part of a lot of these all-star games, and they're so orchestrated as to when people announce and how they announce and during the broadcast or before. Nothing would really surprise me as far as that goes. But after talking to Stephen Hargis, who I respect, I'm going to trust Boo Carter.
Yeah, my only thing on this is, even if he is only 2 Army All-American Bowl participants, I was looking at the numbers yesterday. Dave, there's like 15 schools that have at least 2 participants in the Army Bowl. And you're talking Georgia has like 10, Ohio State has 7, Alabama has 5, a bunch of them have 3. If Tennessee's going to be where it needs to go, I know we talk about Heupel at development, but don't they need like at least like 4 in recruiting classes in the future, Army Bowl participants, if they're really going to get to where they need to go?
The record, I think it still stands. Ironically, was Tennessee and Iowa both with 8 one year that I covered that deal.
Okay.
I think that's still the record. So
I think Georgia broke it.
Yeah, probably. But you also have to remember that you have a situation in which you have 2 all-star games, and I think kids are a little bit smarter now. Why risk injury for that? Portions of the program brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. Support our sponsors. We want to be your jeweler. That's rickterryjewelry.com. Looking for affordable game day jewelry? How about the Fire Opals, a Tennessee tradition? Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, rickterryjewelry.com. They can design jewelry, and then they also have the very affordable very, very affordable jewelry like those Fire Opals that are fantastic. We're going to visit with Josh Ward and talk about how Tennessee is very, very different now in year 3 under Josh Heupel than they've been previously. A great breakdown on offthehooksports.com. Hang tight. Josh Ward of the Sports Animal in 2 minutes.
Sun, sand, and salt water, the beach is a very relaxing place. Unless you wear contacts. Ow! Open your eyes to the best the beach has to offer with LASIK vision correction from Campbell Cunningham Laser Center.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co. What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
Just for the message board, quick mention. No one mentions Peyton Lewis. Do we not talk about Peyton Lewis enough, Caleb?
We have. I think there's still questions about Tennessee's running back future right now because they seem so set with Dylan Sampson, Jalen Wright, and Jabari Small, but we don't know who's leaving. And I'm just going to tell you, there's a strong possibility Dylan Sampson's overrated. He's athletic, but he's not picking up the fine. Hold on, he's not picking up the. He's not picking up the finer details of playing running back. He missed his. I watched when he was in his vision. He's got Trent Richardson vision. I'm just going to say he got Trent Richardson vision.
Josh Ward. Let's bring him in. Trent Richardson comparison to Dylan Sampson. Thoughts?
In terms of vision, not athleticism, because he's way faster and Trent Richardson was a power back, but in terms of vision, Josh, I'm seeing that level of bad vision.
Fat guys can call other guys fat. Josh is never allowed to call anybody fat because he's slim. You aren't either, Caleb. I've been fat, so I can just call Trent Richardson fat.
Well, I mean, their games are very different, right? Dylan is a open field playmaker, I think, in what he is best at. Trent Richardson was not that. It did not work out for him in the NFL, and it was over quickly once he got to the next level past playing for Alabama. I mean, Dylan needs to be I think he has more to show for sure, and assuming he will replace the production of Jalen Wright if Wright moves on to the NFL would be a big jump. I think Dylan has some obvious characteristics similar to Alvin Kamara, but that doesn't mean he's Alvin Kamara. And that's why I've been hesitant to make that kind of leap. But Sampson is a playmaker. I have confidence in that, but I think he needs to be a part of a running back group that can succeed. I think Cameron Seldon next year is an important player to watch. The question, I guess, leading into this was Peyton Lewis. Let's see, freshman, can he come in and make an impact? And then there's Khalifa Keith. We'll see if he has more of an opportunity depending on who leaves.
Yep. Click that.
There was just a moment. I'm sorry. I have to bring this up real quick. It was against Georgia. Dylan Sampson had a run to the outside, and he kept pushing and was forced out of bounds just short of the first down. If he cuts to the inside, he's got nothing but green for a touchdown. And I'm like, a basic college running back should be able to see that. Sorry, they should.
I had no idea that Caleb was this down on Dylan Sampson, Josh. This is news to me. Want to introduce a brand new sponsor on the program, and we're very excited because they carry just awesome stuff. And they bring you Josh's appearance. Brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. Imagine having the best spas made right here in the U.S. in your backyard. Well, they're here and open. Dynasty Pools and Spas has a brand new showroom open in Athens. Well, not brand new showroom. They've had this showroom, but the showroom has a fantastic selection and boy, the best prices, especially with some blemished items that I've taken a look at. You don't even know that they're blemished, but they've got it all right there. Dynasty Pools and Spas in Athens. Complete support, spa cover, and chemicals to keep your spa bubbling at its best. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Amazing discounts for first responders, military, and like I mentioned, those blemished models that can save you a ton of money and no one will ever notice. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Go to dynastyspas.com or stop by there in Athens right off the interstate. You've seen them. Their incredible showroom. I was there at Dynasty Pools and Spas for all 4 seasons. All right, Josh. So Josh wrote about the comparison of coaches, and we do this a lot after year 3. Year 3 is always a good year to do that. And I said, Josh, how about this? I think this is a good idea. You compare Josh Heupel to his predecessors in year 3. And Josh texted me back. I just emailed the story. And man, Derek Dooley struggled. That's a nice way to put it. How would you
that's
compare?
Complimentary.
That's not exactly what Josh texted. How much better off is Tennessee under Josh Heupel than its predecessors? And we'll dive into some of the numbers.
Well, I think if you look at structure of the program, leadership, belief in who is in charge, Josh Heupel's characteristics are more impressive than his predecessors. 2 of the 3 didn't make it beyond 3 seasons. Dooley and Jeremy Pruitt were done after 3 years. Dooley's on-field product was horrible. Pruitt, the on-field product in 2020 was not good at all, but there was everything going on behind the scenes that may have been used to get him out, which really made things worse for the program in terms of some of the things they would have to rebuild. So when you look at where's the program and where's it moving forward, part of that comes back to recruiting. Well, the 2013 class struggled after a coaching change. The 21 class is almost like a non-existent group. I think they have 4 signees left on the roster from that 2021 class because of everything that was going on, and that was a hire that was made later. So then you come back to Butch Jones. I think that's the one comparison to really try to make to figure out, okay, what's different? How can it be better? Because you want better results knowing how it played out beyond 2015 for Butch Jones. And I have more confidence in Josh Heupel than I did at the time, and certainly looking back, see with Butch Jones. But there are questions that have to be answered. How do they close out this 2024 class? There is the transfer portal aspect of it as well. So what kind of players can they find to supplement what was lost in 2021? Part of Butch Jones' challenge was having to replace or fill in gaps that were left by Derek Dooley. That 2013 class was not a great one. The 2012 class didn't have any offensive linemen. Dooley didn't sign one. So those were some of the roster challenges that Butch Jones faced at the time. In 2015, they signed a big-time class. It did not end up living up to the hype. They signed a top 5 class in 2015. That season, the Vols were able to go 8-4, just like this team did in season 3. But they lost those 4 games by a combined 17 points. That would be the real disappointment of this year's team. Not just losing 4 games, but losing by at least 13 points in each game, and then losing by an average of 21 points. The losses were not competitive by the end for Tennessee. They need to clean that up, of course, to be in more games in the fourth quarter, to have a chance to improve the record and get closer to where they were in 2022.
Josh, to push back a little bit, though, with the Butch Jones thing, I want to know what your thoughts are on this and how you compare them. I know you talk about what Butch Jones inherited walking in 2013. I would argue it wasn't as nearly as bad as what Josh Heupel inherited in 2021. As a matter of fact, I want to know your thoughts on this. If I had to make the argument over who walked into the best situation of any coach since Lane Kiffin, I would say probably it was Butch Jones. And I want to know if you think that's. I don't think the roster was as wrecked as it was when Dooley walked in because of what Kiffin did.
I strongly disagree.
Really? Tennessee had their whole offensive line drafted after 2013, after Butch Jones' first year. Now I know they didn't recruit any offensive
They
line.
had to replace all those guys by year 2, and they had to do that with a 2012 class that didn't include any offensive linemen, and there was no transfer portal to be able to replace them with veteran players to come in. So yeah, in 2013, you're right, he had a good offensive line, but they were gone after that. So Tyler Bray left, so the NFL quarterback was off to the league. So the quarterback position at the time was very weak. Josh Heupel inherited Hendon Hooker, who would end up being a Heisman finalist. And that's not to take away from the help that Josh Heupel provided to get Hendon into that spot. But Hendon's a terrific talent, far better than what Butch Jones inherited at the quarterback position. Neither coach walked into a good position, but I don't think Butch Jones walked into a much better spot than Josh Heupel. No way.
I will say this about the situation and again, some of these numbers are astounding that Josh pulled up. So go to offthehooksports.com. I would argue too that if I'm Josh Heupel, I feel a lot better about the whole athletic department than any of those other guys and who they were hired by. No offense to Philip Fulmer, but Dave Hart, all those guys, I mean, that was a bunch of dudes that didn't seem like they knew how to hire a coach.
Yeah, Danny White is he is the best athletic director of the ADs that were in charge during these coaches we're talking about tenure. Without any hesitation.
He's also the best hirer of athletic directors in the country, which is a big deal. Josh, it's funny. I want to actually expand this a little bit when we talk about Josh Heupel's third year. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this because compared to not just his predecessors, but comparing him to legends of college football, Steve Spurrier in his third year at Florida went 9-4. Nick Saban in his third year at LSU went 8-5. And Urban Meyer in his third year at Florida went 9-4. So isn't it safe to say he's actually in pretty good company in terms of having 4 losses his third year at Tennessee?
Yeah, from a record standpoint, sure. I mean, if you look at overall Heupel compared to the previous coaches at Tennessee we're talking about, it's easily Heupel, whether we're talking about overall or SEC or against higher quality opponents. So then you kind of step out and say, okay, how's he done against coaches that we knew went on and had big time success? And some of those coaches had more success than Heupel had through 3 years. If you just look at individual seasons or overall record, like Meyer has a national title in year 2, but year 2 for Josh Heupel, he won 11 games, 10-2 in the regular season. So year 2 was a big year for Tennessee, and then a slide back in 2023. And then, of course, Tennessee is hoping to make a jump back closer to where they were 2 seasons prior by the time they get to next fall. So that's the next step. Can you recruit at the highest level like some of those coaches were able to do to start building a real roster moving forward? That's part of the challenge. And the way you do it is different now than the way some of these coaches have in the past. But most often, programs that you've seen reach a national championship level over the last 25, 30 years, by year 2 or year 3, you could see that potential was there. That's why looking back at somebody like Derek Dooley at the end of year 2, when there was still debate about, hey, I wonder if he can still get Tennessee back to the top. If you go back and look at what they were producing at that time, it's laughable that it would have even been considered. And we found out a year later there was no chance. But Josh Heupel showed in year 2 that, yeah, there's something there. They have to kind of redo some things because of the players that departed. And this year was a reminder of that, of the system, scheme, development. That's great, but you need real talent to hit the full potential in that development.
Portions of the program brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Enjoy life better when you see better. Local vision service for LASIK, cataract surgery, and regular eye examination. Go to ccteyes.com, ccteyes.com. They're local and they care. Look at me. No contacts, no glasses. Again, Josh's appearance brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. Josh, Lady Vols. That's been something. We asked the question if Kelly Harper was on the hot seat yesterday. I would say roughly 80 to 90% agreed with us and actually thought we played it a little soft. That said, why isn't she on the hot seat? She absolutely is. Is there that even a question? And then they lose to MTSU. Your thoughts before we get into 4 Downs, brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas.
Yeah, that's a really bad loss. Getting blown out by Ohio State or losing against other high-quality opponents. The loss against Notre Dame where they have the lead and then give it up. That's at least against high-quality competition from big conferences. Losing to Middle Tennessee within the state, and a program that shouldn't be on the level of the Lady Vols because of obvious reasons, that's not going to sit well. And then when you're in the second half, you're trying to come back to win the game, and then it goes that way. The record's not good. The disappointment of losing big games at least allows the chance of, okay, well, let's see how they do against the teams they'll beat. You assume going in, and then get to conference play and try to catch up there. And now that kind of conversation is out the window. I hate to see it because it's a program that we know the history. We also know that history includes Kelly Harper as a player, and there is no question how much she wants Tennessee to win. Not just because she's the head coach and she's in charge of the program. That's obvious. I had a chance to talk to her in August. She was on with the show we were doing, and her face lit up when I asked her about football season because she was just so excited about the build up to football because she cares about the University of Tennessee, and she is as big of a fan if you're going to a football game or a men's game as any other fan that's watching or listening to us right now. So her passion and how much she cares about UT is unquestioned. And I think fans often want to see that, but there also has to be results. And Kelly Harper came back knowing what the standard is, and she was a part of winning national titles, and that was her goal. And right now they don't really appear to be close there.
It's interesting, and it's a perfect lead-in to 4 Downs, brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas.
4 Downs brought to you by Dynasty Spas, the most comfortable spas made in the United States of America, right here in East Tennessee. Drop in for the all-new showroom in Athens. Dynasty Spas, perfect for all 4 seasons. 4 Downs, presented by Off the Hook Sports.
So, Josh, you can go ahead and jump in the spa with who?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Let's get to it with Coop. I can imagine having the best spas right here in Athens. You can do that. Complete support spa covering chemicals to keep your spa bubbling at its best. Dynasty Pools and Spas, amazing discounts right down below for first responders, military, and even some blemish models that can save you a ton and no one will ever notice. Dynasty Pools and Spas, dynastyspas.com. Coop, what down?
Coop here. First down.
All right, let me start with Josh. Should Kelly Harper or anybody for that matter be given any more slack because they have ties to the program as you just discussed?
No, they should be judged based on job performance and where the program is moving forward. The connection, in this case being a former player at the school, makes it a lot harder, I think, for a lot of people. But no, the evaluation should be based on job performance, state of the program, everything that matters for that person to do his or her job, no matter the previous ties to the school.
All right. Jump in the spa, Caleb, with Cooper. Should she be given more leeway?
No, and this is why hiring former players is always a problem. And I say, Dave, let's look at football. Johnny Majors, Philip Fulmer, the pushing out of Johnny Majors. That was a serious division for Tennessee and a really, really hard thing to do. And also, let's be honest. I'm going to say this. I know he built Tennessee up in the Johnny Majors got a 10-year leash that he did not deserve because he was a former player. I mean, Tennessee was mediocre for a decade.
That's a really good point. In the spot with Coop.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right. Is Tennessee a good or great job given the pressure that's going to be on the individual, Josh, to live up to Pat Summitt's legacy, which no one can do?
I still think it's a great job because of the resources that come with it, and that includes the salary. If you're worthy of it, I'm not saying that Tennessee is going to be willing to spend LSU money like they did on Kim Mulkey. Maybe they would. I don't know that to be the case, and I know money is being allocated elsewhere. So, you have to make difficult choices there sometimes. But I do think it's a great job in women's basketball because of the passion of fans and the resources that come with trying to build if you're able to actually get it there. Just take any coach out there, say they're all free agents, Tennessee would offer as much potential to succeed as any of the programs we would talk about.
All right, Caleb, same question for you. Good or great job?
Totally disagree, Josh. It's not a good or a great job. It's the worst job in women's college basketball.
Yeah.
The reason it's the worst job is the expectations. It is the equivalent of the Notre Dame football job, which is the expectations of what you are expected to do, but also you're expected to do it a certain way that it's not possible to do this day and age in women's college basketball, which is there's the whole don't use any recruiting advantages you might have because we got to recruit the right way. And Tennessee has this culture because of the people that embraced the women's basketball program in the 70s when they embraced Title IX that is still there of don't take any shortcuts. Don't do what Gino Auriemma does when he gives people tours of ESPN to recruit. Don't use those advantages. That's going to wreck Tennessee in the end. It just is. And it's the same with it is the Notre Dame football job, but for women's basketball.
I guess I'll be somewhere in between. I don't think it's a worse job. Certainly not.
Yeah, it's not the worst job. That's not correct.
Yeah, but
I mean, if you're afraid, I guess. But I mean, come on.
I don't think it's possible to win a national title at Tennessee until they start accepting that they change their culture. You can't do it.
Okay,
you can't do it until you change your culture.
So speaking of, and Dynasty pulls and spas 4 downs with Coop.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here, 3rd down.
Fair expectations. Here are my thoughts. Let me get you a yay or nay on this, guys, because we got to move along. But I think 2 Final Fours within 5 years, and I don't even want to say a national championship. I mean, that's how much the women's game has changed and Tennessee's program has changed. But Josh, let me just open up to you. What are fair expectations? What do you tell the next coach that takes this job that she needs or he needs to do to keep that job?
Yeah, I think it's more about being competitive and every once in a while winning an SEC championship. And then, yeah, you need to get back to the Final Four. But I don't think the expectation is national championship or you're out. I mean, that's part of the problem here is that the Lady Vols for several years now have not appeared realistically that close to a Final Four, let alone a national title. So I don't even think that's where the expectation is. I think the expectation is that you're just kind of in the mix among the best teams in the country, and Tennessee hasn't been that.
And to beat the Blue Raiders. Caleb?
I actually totally agree with Josh. I think that's exactly what even though I disagreed last time, that should be the expectations, is to flirt with the Final Four. But again, to meet those expectations, they have to change some of the demands over how you're expected to win, because that's not possible otherwise. And I'm just going to say, you guys all said I was crazy 2 weeks ago when we asked who would last longer, Kelly Harper or Rick Barnes at Tennessee. I think I was right when I said Rick Barnes.
I would have said Rick Barnes. I think we all said Rick Barnes. Josh,
I think you're a part of that conversation.
Maybe that was with Jimmy. Maybe that was with Jimmy. No, I think y'all said. I think you guys said Kelly because she's younger and Rick Barnes is older.
I was actually going to go with the golf coach. That's what Jimmy suggested.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here, 4th down.
All right, here's my idea. And Josh, I know you don't have a lot of time, but here's my idea. Okay, if you want to fix the Lady Vols, I can do it in one fell swoop. You ready? I'm going to NIL some young lady like there's no tomorrow. And I am going to throw a lot of money. There's usually 1 star. Am I wrong, Caleb? You know more about the women's game than I do. There's usually 1 star per class, usually. Caitlin Clark kind of sort of came out of nowhere, but we knew about Maya Moore. We knew about Candace Parker. I'm going to go NIL a lady, and she is going to come to the program, and 1 player can make a huge difference. And then I'm not going to spend a lot more NIL money because I don't think there's a return on investment. Trust me, I've looked into it. But I'm going to NIL somebody. I'm going to fix the Lady Vols if I'm Danny White. That's what I'm doing. Do you love it, hate it, or Josh?
Well, I think that's a starter.
It's that bad, bro. It's just throwing a couple of million at somebody, just a starter.
Yeah, the problem is, though, I don't think it's as simple as, hey, if you have that 1 star, it doesn't matter as much what's around her. Like LSU they've put together several really talented players. They had Angel Reese, and I know there's been some of the she's away from the team with everything that's gone on there. But they went out and they got a big-time transfer from Louisville to come in to join Angel Reese. So I don't think it's as simple as having just one. Rakia Jackson's a big transfer they brought in, and she's not with the team, and that's hurting. If they had her, I would think they beat MTSU. But I think you need more than one. That's a good start because you're right. Candace Parker came in, and that changed their potential as a program. But I do think it's deeper than that.
It's kind of like Victor Wembanyama for Pat Summitt. It was the second, she had the Meeks already, but then she had another booster of career. You're smiling. Why are you smiling at me? I thought that was a good comparison, Josh.
First of all, I don't know that the pronunciation was great. I also,
okay, you go for it. You go for it.
Victor Wembanyama.
Wembanyama.
Iamaleava.
Yeah. Iamaleava. I've got that one down. Iamaleava.
Parker was probably better.
I'll work on
easier
Wemby.
for you.
Yes, I'll work on Wemby. Where were we, Caleb? I'm
with Josh. Maya Moore was probably the last, maybe Breanna Stewart, like women's basketball player where you get this one recruit and it makes you dominant. And Candace Parker was that. Hence the reason Gina Auriemma to this day snubs Candace Parker, and in just a really slick, sick, sleazy way for someone to be that petty. But because he really wanted Candace Parker too. And it was kind of a shot in the arm for Pat Summitt at the time, because remember, there was a drought for Tennessee from that 98 team before they got Candace Parker, where they weren't winning national championships. So I get your point, Dave, but I think you NIL 2 players. Not one. You NIL 2 players. But the question, again, I'm telling you guys this. I think there is a legion of hardcore Lady Vol fans that would not be okay with that. And I think that they're a little old school.
The Lady Vols are mad that they're not getting as much NIL money as they think they should get.
They
I can tell
pushed
you that for a fact.
Well, I believe that, but they pushed. The reason they're not is stuff like Philip Fulmer. This is, by the way, this will
Caleb,
wreck his
hold
legacy.
your thoughts. Josh, how do we follow your work?
Oh, sorry.
People check out the column.
Yeah, seriously. I think I even noted it in there, but if you see the Derek Dooley numbers in the column I wrote today, you're like, Josh screwed something up. This isn't correct. There's no way this is how few games he won. That's not right. It is. It's amazing. It's amazing. At the time, I was like, this is historically bad. I said this in 2012. I was like, he's got to be right up there with some of the worst coaches. I said, oh, you're so young. You don't know the histories. Look at these numbers. How can you be that bad when you consider the resources at Tennessee? So, appreciate you giving me a chance to write that. And follow me on Twitter so I can get an e-boost.
At Josh_Ward, because we pointed out before that Josh, at Josh Ward is a country singer. Do you still get tweets about him? How's his career going, by the way?
I got tagged on like a show maybe a week or two ago that he was playing. And I think somebody on my I have a Facebook page. It's just facebook.com/Josh Ward. So like it. And I think somebody liked it and sent me a message like, love your music. It's like that.
If we haven't heard about him by now, then we're never going to, because everybody and their brother's making a country music hit now. What is it?
Get me enough NIL. I will fly to whatever show he is booked for, and I will show up and I will sing every single one of George Strait's 50 number ones. Happy to do it for the right NIL price.
Smoky Mountain Red says, buy a cowboy hat, Josh. Would you wear a cowboy hat during the show if I got you one?
Again, for the right NIL, everything's got a price. But
when I
was really little, I loved
pools
cowboy hats and boots.
Dynasty pools and spas right on the front. All right, Josh, great stuff. He's noon to 3 on the Sports Animal. We always appreciate you. Tennessee Lady Vol basketball, the worst job in women's athletics, according to Caleb. I'll leave you with that.
It's a terrible job. It's a terrible job.
We're on different sides in this one.
Thank you, Josh. I mean, Caleb, that's a little strong. I mean, they got Thompson Bowling Arena. Hold on. They got Thompson Bowling Arena. They got Pratt Pavilion. I mean, they got a lot of stuff going for them that makes it a good job.
So does Notre Dame in football. Notre Dame, you have agreed with me, is the worst job in football.
But Notre Dame has limitations on its coaches' decisions.
So do the Lady Vols. That's what I was trying to bring up. The Lady Vols have limitations on how you can recruit as a Tennessee coach. They don't let you recruit certain ways. And they have limitations on who they can even hire. Philip Fulmer was told, don't hire anybody that's not a Lady Vol. And they basically he did not want to hire. He kind of almost acknowledged this actually in the press conference when she was hired. He said, I didn't really get the culture. It was like, no, you got to hire a Lady Vol. He was big on that because they were pushing him. This is the problem with the Lady Vols culture. And no one is seeing it. But they have an old school, stuck in the 1970s, as if Title IX just started culture that will be their undoing. The Lady Vol culture, I'm going to say it, and you guys can come at me. I don't really care. Pat Summitt was wrong for canceling the series with UConn. She was wrong. Gina Auriemma, I don't like Gina Auriemma, but that was a stupid move on her part to overreact and cancel over the Maya Moore thing. And it did not hurt UConn. It hurt Tennessee.
No, I didn't think it hurt either particular program. I thought it hurt the women's game, and I was disappointed she made that decision. But, man, if you go a career like she has, and I disagree with one decision you made over the course of your career, that's pretty good. I'll say this about the NIL deal with the Lady Vols, too, and that is there old school thinking? I don't know, but I know that in discussions with the Lady Vols people, that we wanted to do a podcast like we do with Jacob Warren and Cooper Mays, and we wanted to do that with a Lady Vol. And the first question was, well, you've got this Jacob and you got this Jacob and Cooper guy. What are they getting? I'm like, it doesn't matter. I mean, those are two different things, two different responses that you can expect from an audience, and that's tangible. So they have to get beyond that, beyond the fact that NIL is going to somehow save them. It's not. And it's not going to save any women's program. And the entire landscape of women's basketball is drastically changed. So if you haven't followed as closely because of Pat Summitt, there's 10 or 12 teams, Caleb, that can win 8 to 10 that can win a national championship every year. During Pat Summitt's heyday, there was probably 3 or 4. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And well, let me just tell you why I'm criticizing this culture. Now, I get the Dave Hart taking the Lady Vols thing off. That was ridiculous. Keep the Lady Vols name. Okay, fine. But the fan base was split. Half the fans thought he was wrong for basically forcing Pat Summitt to retire. Guys, how could you not think Pat Summitt should have retired when she had her tragic, awful illness? You can't coach.
15 years ago. It's 15 years.
That was 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Okay. And as far as the Lady Vols, will they make a change? Yes, they're going to make a change.
Their demands are stupid.
I would be stunned if they didn't make a change after this year, unless something turns around. But let it get to March. If Tennessee makes the Final Four, then this discussion is moot. We've seen this before with basketball coaches. It's a tournament sport. It's not like football. Portions of the program brought to you by Tennessee Cider Company, the original hard cider of the Smoky Mountains. Use the promo code HAT. That's HAT to receive some free swag with your cider order. Available most anywhere in the United States. Go to tncidercompany.com. tncidercompany.com. Coming up, how about a rivalry at a neutral site? Caleb has this grand idea that he thinks that would be a good thing for the Vols. I'm not so sure, but we'll discuss that. And I want to remind you that we're represented by our friends at Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com or banksandjones.com. Again, coming up, Tennessee may consider playing a neutral site rivalry game. Do you like it, a la Texas, Oklahoma, or not? Stay tuned. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports.
Got cataracts? We can fix that. Never miss another moment. With a little help from Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn at ccteyes.com.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
These mountains hold and defend a spirit far better than moonshine. A drink that holds flavor, that becomes necessity. A hard cider made and relished by folk who are as hearty as they are legend. A refreshment that can only be found in one place. With a taste that makes you say, give me 3 bottles of the good stuff. Tennessee Cider Company, where necessity can be found.
What's up, everybody? This is Jacob Warren, asking you to like, subscribe, and share. Dave needs this.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
You have got to check out our friends right there in North Knoxville, Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates. Go to Facebook and follow them at Sports Treasures TN. The updates they send out are awesome, Sports Treasures TN. But go to Facebook and look for Sports Treasures there north in the Halls community, and they're absolutely fantastic. The Seton commitment. Can you help me with that? We had somebody on the message board who just now said that it was supposed to go any second. I was told that it was going to be at noon Eastern time, 9 Pacific. Yeah, I'm still told that. So Caleb,
I was told 11 Eastern time, and reportedly he's announcing his commitment on Undisputed, the show with Skip and Shannon and all of them. He's reportedly announcing his commitment on that, and he said he'll do it on IG Live. So this is a I'm scouring Twitter as much as everybody. This is one of those things where you don't really break news anymore because everybody else will see it beforehand. But we're trying to stay on top of it.
We definitely will get into it if he makes an announcement. I have been a part of these announcements where it's a 40-minute preamble before he says which school he's going to. So we'll see if that's coming. It was the worst. Hit that like and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate that. And Caleb and I do see eye to eye on a lot of things, but not some things. And so at our 3:45 a.m. production meeting this morning, we're like, hey, let's talk about rivalries. And I'm like, well, Tennessee's the rivalry school. They've got rivalries everywhere. They can't have any more rivalries. And Caleb's saying, oh, you know what I love are those neutral site rivalries. And I'm like, I hate them. And he goes, Tennessee should do one of those. I'm like, no, they shouldn't. I'm like,
what the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Should the Vols consider an annual neutral site rivalry game? I hate the fact that Florida and Georgia's played in Jacksonville. I say absolutely not. Caleb changed my mind.
So,
and this comes from, the Cotton Bowl is going to keep Texas and Oklahoma through 2036.
Yes, this comes because the Oklahoma and Texas have extended the Cotton Bowl through 2036. And I'm usually not a fan of neutral site games. One, I think you're giving away money. And because you usually make more money doing a home and home than you do splitting revenue for a neutral site game every year. So on paper, just in principle, I'm I'm for the home and homes. However, Dave, I think from a recruiting perspective, if Tennessee still is playing Georgia annually in 2 years, I think they should address maybe playing that game in Atlanta. And I don't care if it's closer to Georgia. Tennessee having a presence in Atlanta every single year.
That was the one that made sense this morning in our meeting. So should the Vols consider a neutral site? Now, would Georgia do that? Consider a neutral site game in the Mercedes-Benz Dome?
Okay, how about this? This would be so controversial. Make a deal with Georgia. Would you give Georgia 60% of the tickets in Tennessee 40 and just willingly play a slight road game every year to just to have that recruiting presence in Atlanta?
No. I mean, I would split them even. Why?
So
you think? I don't think Georgia's going to fight this. Why do you think Georgia's going to fight this? I mean, if Tennessee called them up, that they would be like, heck yeah, let's do it.
Because Georgia would lose out on their home game. Again, home and homes are better, and Georgia's already got a neutral site game in Jacksonville. Georgia would lose out on potential every other year revenue that they get from home games. And again, the revenue you get from one home game every other year outweighs the revenue you get from a neutral site game every year. And typically in college football, largely because neutral site games are played at NFL stadiums are slightly smaller than college stadiums as it is. But then also the neutral site games, you got to pay promoters. Promoters put these games on a lot of times and things like that. So I think that look, ideally 50-50, but if Georgia's hesitant, maybe agree to give them a little bit more of the ticket sales, because look, Tennessee having a presence in Atlanta every year would be huge.
Well, I don't think
that would be. I don't
think Georgia would fight it. I think they would be fine with it. I think the TV.
Well, then do it.
Well, at the end of the day, I don't know that Tennessee should do it. I mean, I see your point. I'm not saying I hate it. I'm not saying I love it, but I wouldn't do it. I think a home game in Neyland special is way too special. I think a home game in Neyland Stadium gives you, and we've talked about this before, gives you 5 points in a point spread, as opposed to most home fields give you 2 or 3. So I wouldn't give up the Neyland Stadium every other year.
I think recruiting in Atlanta also gives you a 5-point spread, but that's just me. And what I would think about this, because I thought about this with Oklahoma and Texas. Texas has better recruiting, but historically and now, you would say recency and historically, Oklahoma's been the better program, right, than Texas?
Well, yes.
They've been able to do that because they've been able to recruit Texas. They compete with Texas for Texas recruits. You don't think them playing that annual game in Dallas is a huge reason they're doing that?
I think it helps. I think it also helps the coaches that they've had hired. I mean, if you look at Tennessee, why did Tennessee do so well in Atlanta recruiting with Philip Fulmer? It wasn't because they played a neutral site game. It was because they had Drunken Ray Goff and they had Jim Donnan as their head coach. And then Tennessee continued to win battles against Mark Richt, who was much better than the other two guys I mentioned. But I think that's the best way is Kirby Smart to go somewhere else. I think you would agree with that. But as far as a neutral site game, other options that might be out there, is there any other one that really floats your boat, or is that the only one? I can't think of another one that makes a lot of sense for Tennessee, but I'll give you that this one makes sense. And as far as the money, the money's not going to get in the way, because you have a little crew down there called the Chick-fil-A Bowl Committee, and they were one of the best run bowls, even though they weren't the upper end bowls, upper echelon like the Rose Bowl and stuff. They would find a way to make that happen. I mean, if there's some way they could attach a sponsorship to it, they would do that, and then the television revenue would offset that. So I don't really think the gate would be a factor. I think home field advantage would be a factor, but I don't think the gate in either place would be a monstrous factor. I mean, you're probably talking about, what do you make on the gate? I mean, back when I was covering it, you made about $1 million on the gate.
I have no idea.
So let's say with inflation, you make $3 million. A game like that you could get title sponsored in November, especially like it happened this past year. Oh my goodness. I mean, at what point do we see some of these neutral site games, because of money, come with endorsements? The Tennessee Georgia rivalry brought to you by Chick-fil-A. How about them nuggets?
Well, that's what
check out my nuggets. I got the dogs and balls.
Oh my gosh. That's what That's what Arkansas was hoping to, because Arkansas plays Texas A&M at Jerry World every year. Reportedly, Texas A&M hates that, and they want the home and home back. They want to go back to a home and home. Arkansas has no problem going to Jerry World and playing in Texas every year. But okay, another one. What about from a lesser degree? Would you, since it's not that special of a home game anyway, because it's Kentucky, would you consider playing Kentucky at a neutral site game outside of the state of Tennessee? Because Kentucky, one thing they've done recently, every now and then they've picked off an elite player out of East Tennessee. I mean, Randall Cobb is the most notable example of that. And,
right.
Knoxville,
give me another.
I actually think, isn't there?
I mean, Tennessee has a lot. Randall Cobb is the one shining example.
That was a big one to get him out of Alcoa.
When Tennessee didn't offer him though until like January, second week in January, and then Trooper Taylor goes to Oklahoma State, and he was the guy that recruited him, and that's why that blew up. But I mean, Kentucky's not coming down into Tennessee recruiting territory and winning battles against the Vols. And as a matter of fact, they're lucky to win battles against the Vols in the Commonwealth.
Well, there's not a lot of talent in the Commonwealth to win battles agast, to be honest.
I would say this.
Andre Woodson's probably the only one.
How about this idea? If you're looking for something, what if you played, when did they get the new stadium for the Titans? Because I hate the stadium now.
They get that, I think it's 20, I don't know exactly. It's like 3 years down the road still.
Now, I know you're not very big on, I feel like Nashville recruiting is going to eventually break through the glass ceiling. I know you've gotten history and you've talked about it, how those guys have not panned out and it's overrated. And historically, you're absolutely correct. I just believe at some point numbers are numbers and you're going to have that change. And they're eventually going to be that Nashville is going to be so big, it can't not be a great recruiting area, if that makes sense. So
I mean, New York City's not a great recruiting area, and it's the biggest city in the country. And it's a terrible recruiting area. When's the last good player that came out of New York City?
You got me. I mean, I don't. You can't play football in New York City. You can play football around Nashville. You've got space. You don't have space in New York City.
They have space. They built. Trust me. They've got space. They find ways to squeeze in football stadiums all over that city.
But not a bunch of. No, wait a second.
Well, okay. How about this? North Jersey.
Wait. Whoa. Don Bosco is in Jersey. Now, would you consider them a New York school? Because
yes, New York area.
Oh, and Jarrett Garantano's dad was a cop in New York City. So, do you consider Jarrett Garantano a New York City prospect?
Yes, New York City area kids. And are you telling me North Jersey has good football? Because I don't think it does.
Don Bosco does. I mean, Don Bosco puts out about 5 or 6 guys a year.
Pennsylvania and Ohio and Maryland and Michigan all put out more talent than the New York area. And I mean, who came out of Connecticut that's good? That's in the New York area. Is there a high school in Connecticut you've heard of? I haven't. This is the largest metro area in the country, and the football's pathetic there. Well, by the way, the third largest metro area in the country, Chicago, football's not good there either.
Yeah.
Who's good that came out of Northern Illinois?
Point being, I think Nashville will prove to be a solid recruiting ground. I'm not saying it takes over Dade County in South Florida, but I'm saying that it'll be a solid recruiting ground, if not very good. And if just the numbers alone would lead me to believe that. And if Tennessee wants to play a neutral site game, that might be the place to do it. You might call Kentucky and say, would you like to play in Nashville? But do you help Kentucky? And all this comes from Texas. If you're just tuning in, Texas and Oklahoma are going to continue to play in the Cotton Bowl. I could see that. I really could see, Tennessee has this issue going on with Memphis that I think stems from basketball. They've had issues there. We know Rick Barnes, Jimmy Himes broke that, Rick Barnes had the issue with Memphis and he wasn't going to play them anymore. But that would be a great opponent that you beat most of the time, and you could play in Nashville. I know that's non-conference, but how's that float your boat?
I think Tennessee would rather do a home and home with Memphis because they're already going to Nashville every other year, and they'd rather that way they could actually get into Memphis and recruit Mississippi some too at that point. So That's actually been the fights with Tennessee and Memphis. Memphis has always wanted to do neutral site games with Tennessee in football and basketball, and Tennessee has never wanted to do neutral site games with Memphis. They want the home and home. And because Memphis doesn't like Tennessee going into Memphis and recruiting that city. So that Calipari hated that in basketball. That drove him crazy. And the same with Josh Pastner was that was the biggest reason the rivalry ended both times. Nashville. Yeah. Okay. Putting aside my thoughts that Nashville talent is overrated, you're right. Players will at least some come out of there. At that point, playing Kentucky and Nashville helps Kentucky more than it helps Tennessee because Tennessee has more of a lock on Nashville than Kentucky does. So I don't think you would play Kentucky and Nashville. So that's the big thing. I would just say that Nashville is like, again, where are people moving to Nashville from, Dave? Nashville's growing because people from New York City and the New York area are moving to Nashville. Well, nobody in the New York area can play football. It's a soft, weak football area. I bet I could start at football on a high school football team in New York City or in New York. So
would bet you couldn't.
I'm saying New York football is terrible. So Nashville's growing with people moving away from other regions. Those regions don't have good football. You're not having families with elite athletes moving to Nashville. You're having like theater nerds move to Nashville. Nothing wrong with theater nerds, okay? But life is not High School Musical where you can be a basketball star and a theater nerd at the same time. And Nashville's getting the theater nerds, not the football players.
No, they're not. All right. So hang tight. I want to take a look at this. Do we have a confirmation on the Seton commitment yet? I would like to dive into that for a second if we have that.
He reportedly committed on Undisputed because, the Undisputed, Skip Bayless has been driving the Colorado bandwagon like way, way harder than in an unserious way. And yet he committed to Colorado on Undisputed. And I believe.
Okay.
Again,
So I want to ask this question then. So what are your thoughts on Deion Sanders strictly from a recruiting perspective? You're not allowed to say the C word, which is coaching. Oh, we don't want to get into him as a coach, but are you worried about him as a recruiter? Because I think he probably stole one away. Well, he did steal one away from Tennessee and a couple other schools. How did he do it? He did it with flair. And that's something that most coaches are never, ever going to have. He's always going to have that advantage. It may be bull, but it's flair. And most coaches are never going to have that. So how concerned are you now about Deion Sanders strictly from recruiting?
I believe in Deion Sanders still as a coach. The reason
I'm supposed to say the C word.
Oh, you're right. I'm so sorry. As a recruiter, okay, I don't think Tennessee should be as concerned. Look, guys, I don't think Jordan Seton was going to Tennessee, even if he didn't go to Colorado. He'd have gone to probably Alabama. I don't think Tennessee should worry because the flair, if you're interested in flair, the one place that could somewhat compete with Colorado with flair is Tennessee because of Josh Heupel's offense. Heupel's got a little flair to him, Dave. So I don't think Tennessee is going to lose out on prospects that they have a legitimate shot for to Colorado. I don't think they had a legitimate shot at Jordan Seton. I think that was smoke and mirrors. And so I think that, but we thought about this with Boo Carter, but you just found this out yesterday. Boo Carter went to Colorado to recruit for Tennessee. Yeah. And so, I mean, I think that if Tennessee's in the running, I don't think Deion Sanders' existence is going to hurt them too much because even if the flair outweighs it, Tennessee's got flair. Tennessee has more flair than Alabama or Georgia right now.
I think Colorado is worrisome if you're Josh Heupel for a couple of different reasons. You can put all of this time into try to get a Jordan Seton out of IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. Excuse me, IMG Academy. And you're trying to build that pipeline there, and Tennessee's tried to do that to the point that they hired Chris Winkie, who was a coach there, and they haven't been able to do that. So I think that's frustrating. Listen, I don't think it's just frustrating for Josh Heupel. I think it's frustrating for Nick Saban. I think it's frustrating for Ryan Day. Also, you had Oregon and Maryland supposedly in the mix. I think it's frustrating for all those big-time programs that are trying to win recruiting battles based off of old school. And old school is, hey, we have great facilities. You're going to win a championship, blah, blah, blah. Great student athlete support, all of that. New school is NIL, which I think Tennessee is good at. But here's why you should be worried about Deion Sanders is because, again, he's going to snap up 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 8 or 10 of these guys, not all from Tennessee, but he's going to snap up these guys that really solid programs think they've got. And that was the rumors that I was hearing even late last night, is that Seton had said, hey, I'm thinking Tennessee, and the vibes were really good. That's why I think it's frustrating, because then it throws off your whole plan. Now, flip side, if Jordan Seton goes up there and Deion Sanders is the head coach at Miami or Florida State, and next year, he could transfer. So the transfer portal helps you overcome that. But I think it's troublesome. I think it's kind of like the gnat that keeps buzzing around. I don't think it's the yellow jacket that stings you and your whole arm swells up. Make sense?
I mean, yeah, I get that. And it could be troublesome in other ways too, because look, Stephen A. Smith brought up a point a couple of days ago, Dave, and I want to know if you think this is true, because Deion Sanders' promotion won't just help him in recruiting. If Deion Sanders is the coach at Florida State, do you think they're left out of the college football playoff?
Ooh, great point. No.
Like,
the answer is absolutely not.
Because it's a TV show, like you said. And you want Deion Sanders in the college football playoff if his team's undefeated, right?
Oh, yeah. No doubt. Portions of the program brought to you. I want to make another point about the Seton commitment. But first, I got to tell you about my friend Don Self. Don Self, if you're in the Chattanooga area, call 423-396-2126 for fantastic State Farm insurance. He's your State Farm agent. Customer service still matters. He's been there for 40 years, guys. DonSelf.net, DonSelf.net. Don and his team pride themselves on customer service, and that still matters, because I'm going to tell you that everybody's shopping for a deal now, but what happens when that claim comes through? DonSelf.net. Check them out. Support our sponsors. That's why we're here. Boy, the Seton thing would have been really big for Tennessee, but it wouldn't have helped Tennessee next year. There are not a lot of guys who come in ready to play at the SEC level. So I think that Deion Sanders, his flair is certainly a part of it, but I don't think you lose an awful lot of the war daddies, which I refer to as the defensive tackles, or the offensive linemen to Deion Sanders, because I think they take pride in playing for the SEC. And because they're from the South, more oftentimes than not, there's just more big, good athletic bodies in the South than there is anywhere else. So I don't think you're overly worried about Deion because of the locality of it, but it's troublesome. I mean, this is a guy that Tennessee probably has, and everybody's celebrating. If not for Deion's ability to get it on, which one is it? Is it Bayless or is it Stephen A. Smith, or who is it?
It's Skip Bayless, who, again, I believe in Deion, but Skip Bayless, I don't take anybody seriously who picked Colorado to upset Oregon after the 3-0 start. That's when I know you're driving the hype train way too much, right, Dave? You and I both knew immediately that Oregon was going to win that game in a blowout. Even if you believed in Deion Sanders, that was an impossible game for Colorado to win. And Skip Bayless picked Colorado. And I'm like, all right, you're just doing this for show at this point.
No, I agree with that. I think that, I don't know why. That's why we try to be genuine and we admit when we're wrong. I don't know that those guys ever really mean what they say.
Yeah. I mean, it was like the idea that you thought Colorado, I get the 3-0 start. And I think I disagree with a lot of people. I still think Deion's going to do a good job at Colorado. I'm not a Deion hater like most, but at the same time, the train got driven so hard in September. I think it kind of annoyed people, because when you started hearing about the bets placed on Colorado to make the playoff or win the national title, and we're sitting here like, wait, guys, come on. Like, this team is still depleted as a roster, and it's just not serious as a conversation. I think that turned people to overreact against Deion because it was annoying to a lot of people.
Well, Scott brings up a great point. What would have been Colorado's record without Deion's son? I mean, I think he is a fantastic talent, and you're absolutely Incredible. Right. Here's the other thing to remember about Tennessee's pending relationship with ESPN. You can probably make these sorts of things happen a little bit easier if you're in the SEC. Now, we don't know what ESPN is going to be in 5 years, right? I think it's been on the decline for quite some time. But I'd say, as opposed to calling up, another network like the Big Ten's going to do, and I agree that Big Ten deal is more lucrative and better for the Big Ten than the ABC ESPN deal is for the SEC. However, is it easier to make these sorts of things happen with the relationship with the SEC in the future? Because I'll tell you what, if I'm Stephen A. Smith's producer, okay, and he tells me I want to have this guy on because I like Deion, I'm gonna be like, wait a second, we're paying the SEC all this money. I would rather, if we're gonna have that, let's have fair and balanced, and let's have an SEC guy on every once in a while. Make sense?
Yes, and ESPN still laps like FS1 in ratings. I agree, but FS1, the Big Ten has more options. I mean, this guy committed on FS1, not ESPN, and FS1 does have the Big Ten. They'll probably have the Big 12 next year with Colorado in there. The Big 12, by the way, here it's a funny thing you bring that up because I think they have a TV deal now that may be better than the SEC's. Their new commissioner was the CEO of Rock Nation, which those who don't know, that's Jay-Z's company, and I
was just listening to the Rulers Back earlier this morning.
Don't you have you have the Rock Boys music as one of your little lead-ins now, I think, don't you?
Preach. I think I do. They're called rejoins.
Okay, so they
your
are
little lead-ins.
Big 12 is doing stuff that is, and Colorado's going back to the Big 12. They're doing stuff that's going to upset a lot of college football traditionalists. But they're being very forward-thinking right now. Some of it's going to work, some of it's not. The game in Mexico, you and I may think that's stupid. What if that becomes like a big splash thing for college football over the next few years? It's worth a shot. The Big 12 is exploring playing a game in Mexico every year.
Oh, yeah. No, that's stupid.
See, again, old school college football fan. Dave is like, duh. But
I don't think that's old school. I think that the NFL went down there and the field was a mess and they couldn't even play a preseason game. And I don't think I can't see. We may like Manchester U, but I don't know who the AA team is for Manchester U, and I bet they're not very popular. Tell you who's popular: City Heating and Air Conditioning. 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. Don't trust a fly-by-night HVAC company to tell you that you need a new unit that could cost you thousands or more. Go to cityheatandair.com. That's cityheatandair.com. So. Coming up on the program, I was glad we got that Seton thing in and the Deion thing. I didn't know that was going to break necessarily during the show. So coming up, we'll have our 5 favorite minutes, and that's your opportunity to jump on board and tell us what direction you would like to go and what you would like to discuss. And we've decided whoever comes up with the best topic that will kick in there is going to be able to win a T-shirt. So we'll hook you up with a T-shirt. So stay tuned. 2 minutes. He is Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, Off Flex Sports.
Got cataracts? We can fix that. Never miss another moment. With a little help from Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn at cctis.com.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
These mountains hold and defend a spirit far better than moonshine. A drink that holds flavor that becomes necessity. A hard cider made and relished by folk who are as hearty as they are legend. A refreshment that can only be found in one place. With a taste that makes you say, give me 3 bottles of the good stuff. Tennessee Cider Company, where necessity can be found.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Welcome back. All right, our 5 favorite minutes. Go ahead and load up the message board. Best topic of the day. We'll hook you up with a T-shirt. We can talk more recruiting. We can do what you want to do, but we love doing this at the end of the program each and every day because we're building a community here. Support our sponsors, Dynasty Pools and Spas, the newest there in Athens. Thank you, Scott. We look forward to visiting with you and excited about that. He brought you Josh Ward today, and but what we would like to do is end every show with our 5 favorite minutes as we build this community of great advertisers, great sponsors, great businesses, and the thousands of people that listen to the program every day. We greatly appreciate that. So Derek's first up, our 5 favorite minutes. Has Nico helped or hurt Tennessee in recruiting because of his geographic area he came from? I dig that. I think that's very good. As a matter of fact, Derek, if anything happens with Caleb, there's an application in there for you. Caleb, I'm joking. I don't think it has helped yet, but I think it will help. I think that, and here's what I was told about Nico yesterday by somebody in the program. I said, would you bet a week's pay that Nico is really good? And the guy said, I'd bet a month's pay that he's really, really, really good. Okay, so what happened when Tennessee has had previous California or Western prospects do well? Well, they recruit better there as a whole. It makes it much, much easier. Casey Clausen's a great example. And then I think on a connecting flight, Randy Sanders saw Arian Foster like by happenstance when he was recruiting Casey. So, no, I think that Nico, by the middle of next year, by the time he's established, 2 games in, Caleb, I think you'll have several prospects from the California area that are interested in Tennessee that wouldn't have been otherwise.
Yeah, I think that's a very reasonable thing to think. I mean, let's go back.
And I'm talking 6 to 8 will really be in play.
Remember when Tennessee had a big Polynesian presence in the early 2000s? They got JT Mapu, and then they landed Jesse Mahalona, and then they landed Albert Toyena. And it kind of spiraled. And you're right, California, I think it started with Dante Stallworth. Then they got Casey Clausen. Then they got Kevin Simon. Then they got Eric Ainge out of Oregon. And then they were able, you're right, I think it was the connecting flight with Eric Ainge, not Casey, but because Eric Ainge and Foster were the same recruiting class, 04.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Okay. So I got, and the other one that going way back that we didn't mention is Terry Fair. But now I know that's Arizona and that's not West Coast, but I mean, it's like 2 hours.
Well, and that was also, I think the fair thing. Look, sometimes you have such a transcendently talented player that you just recruit all over. And I think Peyton Manning did that for Tennessee. Basically, Peyton Manning was the face of college football, and his existence at Tennessee helped recruit a lot. I think that was the similar to Johnny Manziel for a while. And Tim Tebow at Florida. Look, I think Nico's going to be that too. Look, I'm telling you guys, I'm taking, you want to bet? I might put a month's pay right now. Are the Heisman odds for next year out? Because I'm going all in on Nico winning the Heisman next year, guys. I am putting so much money on that. And if he does, I'm dead serious.
Win the Heisman next year, Caleb.
Why?
Because you don't
because he didn't start this year?
Okay, let me tell you the one way he can win the Heisman. If he plays in the Citrus Bowl and balls out. You have to have No. Whether it's fair or not, you have to have preseason hype to win the Heisman.
No, you don't. Caleb Williams didn't have any preseason hype.
Yes, he did. Everybody knew that he was going from Oklahoma to Southern California. Everybody was like, let's see this guy. Let's see what he can do.
What about, okay, then let's go back. Jameis Winston hadn't started a game. He won the Heisman. Cam Newton, did he have any preseason hype at Auburn?
Yeah, a ton. He was the number 1 junior college prospect.
RG3 the next year. RG3 was a late bloomer. Didn't actually start rolling until October. Everybody was talking about Andrew Luck before then.
Okay, well, I think you have to have preseason. I'm not going to say I'm not going to say it's a hard and fast rule, and there aren't exceptions, but you have to have some preseason hype. If he plays,
Charles Woodson had none.
If he plays in the Citrus Bowl, then yes, it's a possibility.
Nope. Preseason hype is so overrated now because it mattered. Again, Charles Woodson didn't have any preseason hype. That thing was already a lock for Peyton when the season started. And then Charles Woodson came out of nowhere and took it. So I'm just saying, I think preseason hype doesn't. I actually broke it down. There's like 7 or 8 quarterbacks that won the Heisman that did not start the year before. Joe Burrow. No one thought Joe Burrow was a Heisman winner entering 2019.
Okay, I don't. Let's go to top 5 2024 Heisman Trophy player future odds. So you're telling me that he is going to be better than Marvin Harrison Jr., who's the lead,
NFL, isn't he?
That's what I would think. I'm trying to figure out if you can find futures for the 2024 Heisman. You've done a better job than me because
maybe Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, he's a sophomore, right? He has to come back, right?
Yeah, I think he has to come back. Yeah,
Jaden's going to win it this year, though. So then you've got the whole winning it 2 times in a row works against you.
And, you're right. Dylan has a great point. Johnny Manziel came out of nowhere, won the Heisman. Most out of nowhere Heisman winner ever. Nico is winning the Heisman next year, guys, because Nico is going to break every record known to man in college football for passing. Okay, I am telling you guys, Nico is going to be that elite. This was a transition here for Heupel. So he's been going all in. Nico's winning the Heisman. Just telling you guys he's winning it next year.
I wonder what odds you could get on a backup winning the Heisman now. You could probably get like 10,000 to 1 odds. So $100 wouldn't be the worst bet.
Oh my gosh, I could do so much with my house, pay off my student loans.
That's a good point.
I think I might do that. You're right. All right. You're right. I need to go ahead and drop $100 on that because he's winning the Heisman. And
if you can find somebody to take that bet, I'd be impressed. We might have to shop it around in Vegas a little bit, kind of like those quiet bets. As far as the committee members could vote for, or they could call Vegas or on their app say that Alabama was going to make the college football playoff and make money on that, and they would know. But you know how they do that? There's like a limit. You can only win like $10,000 on stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I would take $10,000. And what odds, in all seriousness, would I have to give you to get excited about that?
I would take odds at 10 to 1 for Nico. I'd take him at 5 to 1. But if you give me 10,000 to 1, if you're telling me I can win $1 million betting on Nico to win the Heisman, like I am telling you guys.
Okay, so Smoky Mountain Red said I'll throw some money at that bet. All right, so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna lower it, and you tell me when you're out. Okay, so you're taking 10,000 to 1. You're in or you're out. You're definitely in, right?
Yep.
Hey now. Okay. 5,000 to 1.
Yep.
Hey now. 1,000 to 1. This is your money. This is your $100 that you can take your beautiful wife out with.
Yep.
1,000 to 1.
I can win $100,000. Yes.
That's crazy.
100 to 1.
Yep. Still on.
Okay. Really?
10,000. Put 100 on 100 to 1. $10,000. Win 10,000. I'll take that.
50 to 1.
Yes, win $5,000.
Well, okay, I'll just drop it down to even money. Would you take even money for Nico to win the Heisman?
I would not take even money for Nico to win the Heisman.
That is total bullshit.
If you had said yes, you know what that'd have been?
That's hot.
How you doing, Calhoun? I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Hunter asked a question quickly. Will Seton off the board? This class will probably be around 12th. Is this class a disappointment compared to what we thought it could be? We're going to tackle that tomorrow, but I will say yes a little bit. He is Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation.